to 2024 and a brand new season of Let's Talk to Animals. My name is Shannon. I'm an animal intuitive and sensitive and a Reiki master practitioner with animallovelanguages.com. And that little chirp you just heard is my feathered sidekick, Petal Cuts. She is the reincarnation of my soul bird of 24 years, Pearl Cuts. And that's a story you can learn about in a different episode of Let's Talk to Animals, actually from last season. But for this season, because 2024, I don't know about you, but for me, it really feels like a tipping point year. So many of us have been through so much over the last few years. We have been twisted and turned. We've been pushed. We've been pulled. We've been spun in circles. We've experienced dramatic change, dramatic loss. And now here we are with a whole bright and shiny new set of 365 fresh days. And we get to decide, what are we going to do with all of this? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to show up? What have we learned from it? What are we going to take forward with us? What are we going to leave behind? Who do we want to be in this world? And what kind of light, what quality of light, what quantity of light, what color light do we want to shine forward to give others who may be going through struggles the courage and the encouragement to keep going, to remind ourselves of how resilient and how strong we really are. And if we could go through all that, imagine the power that we have to shape and reshape our world for ourselves, for the ones that we love, and for everyone of all species. And so that's why I wanted to kick off 2024 with our bright and shiny new season with a two-parter. And it's really focused on intuition and how can you start to trust, to lean into, to trust, and to follow your intuition for your highest and best good towards all of your dreams in the direction of the life that you vision for yourself. Every single one of these tips and tools will be just as applicable to your animal communication journey as it is to your life journey, which is why I often sort of half joke that animal communication is the best self-help and self-evolution program that I've ever found. It definitely has transformed my life. It has awakened me to all the bells and whistles that come with my human operating system that nobody ever told me about before. And because nothing in my life was really set up to train my attention in the direction of these extras, if you will, they were always kind of there in the background struggling to operate, but I never noticed it. And if I did notice, it was in such fleeting bursts that I certainly never attached any continuity to it. I never thought to myself, that happened before once 5 years ago. And maybe the fact that it's happening again means there's a pattern here. So we're going to start stringing smaller, more frequent moments like this together in this two-part series. And I really want to share with you some of the many tools that I now rely on, trust deeply and completely, and look for and encourage and welcome and invite into my life on a daily basis. Not only do these tools help me when I'm communicating with your pets and with my own pets and with any animal that I want to talk with, but they help me with everything in my life. They have become my inner GPS system. And if you feel like you've been struggling to find yours, whether that's in a specific goal that you're striving to accomplish, such as learning to talk to animals, learning to develop your psychic and intuitive and your sensory abilities, or if this is just something you want and you don't know why, and by the way, you don't have to know why, but you're just wanting to feel like you're more of an aligned system, like all of your parts are connected, like you don't find yourself coming and going 24/7 and you just don't feel like all of you is awake and alive and flowing in the direction that you want your life to flow. These tools will help you. If my own life is any indication, then these tools will absolutely have benefit for you in your life as well. Many of these tools I have drawn from years, decades even, of self-study and intensive study with intuitive teachers from all walks of life. And so just know that these tools are time tested. I have built and leaned into and refined and used them over years, over decades. I just turned 53, so yay, right? We just get better. Every year brings an opportunity to add to the joy and the just the value of life, and also the kind of energy we want to put out into the world, which we hope will continue to evolve and unfold long after our physical bodies are gone. So let's dive into it, shall we? So that I'm so sorry. I keep trying to start this, and I've got this lovely, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, I've got this lovely little nesting baby behind me who is just singing. Yeah, I would love to make an egg with you, but I'm the wrong species. Nesting season started early yet again this year. So my very first tool that I want to share with you is to pause. That's right. Just pause. When you're faced with a decision, when you're when you're efforting to make a choice about something, when you're not sure which direction to go, but you have some options. And this is a common situation that we find ourselves in each and every day, from tiny little things like, what should I eat for breakfast? To huge life choices like, which $10,000 course should I invest in? Or which job should I say yes to? Or which city should I move to? Or is this the right partner to spend the rest of my life with? Or is this truly my soul pet reincarnated? Is this the animal that I have a soul contract with who belongs with me? And we're just not wired to trust ourselves. And the reason for that is because we are wired to head up into our left brain mind first, and often only to gather information about what decision to make. What should we do? Should we say yes or no? It's a very linear system we have been educated and trained and really indoctrinated into. If we're not consulting our left brain mind first and foremost on everything, then we're in this woo-woo land. We're in this airy-fairy pseudoscience land. And that's exactly why I decided to do this podcast. Let's talk to animals. Let's make woo not just fun and joyful, but valid again. There was a time in our shared evolutionary history back when we were living in the forest with all the other animals who were hungry 3 times a day, and we were in small tribes, and we were responsible for feeding and caring for ourselves in very tangible ways, and sometimes very dangerous ways, where we were definitely still part of the food chain of life. And we didn't have books, we didn't have Google, we didn't have Siri, we didn't have satellite GPS, we didn't have formal classroom education. What did we use then to make decisions? How did we stay alive, let alone fed and clothed and out of danger and connected? We used what we're talking about now. We used our intuition. We used our sensory pathways. We used emotion, the energy in motion, showing us in a very tactile way, should I go forward? Should I stay put? Should I go back? And that's the other thing. When we pause, when you just take a moment, you give yourself a minute before you push yourself, before you let your left brain mind push yourself forward into a decision, whether it's about, did that animal really say that to me? Or is my pet really hungry right now? Or do I really need to push myself to work? Or should I take a nap? All of these different decisions. So there's like hundreds of opportunities to practice every day. All of these decisions have an energy, a momentum to them. So when you pause, what you're looking for is, how do you feel? What is the energy in motion within you? And you can pause, you can notice the emotion, you can notice the feeling. What I have learned over the years is that there's 3 basic qualities of emotional clues or cues that you can look for, 3 different energy patterns that can help you chart your course through the chaos of making decisions in life. And I pull these from many years of studying with my intuitive teacher, Sonia Choquette, who is famous for her good vibes tribe, of which I am a proud virtual card carrying member, and talking about these 3 energy patterns. One is our green light vibes. Green light vibes are the energy of go forward, move forward. We feel propelled forward. This is where, for instance, when I met my soul bird, Pearl, when he was this helpless little 5-week-old chick, he was nest bullied. He was like a hot mess. I absolutely did not want anything to do with the new pet bird. I was still grieving my cockatiel Jacob, who had an untimely early death. And yet when I met Pearl, when my eyes met Pearl's eyes, when I laid eyes on him on the first time, my arms, my hands, like my body moved in his direction. My hand extended itself. He hopped on, he scampered up my arm. He sat underneath my hair for 45 minutes. And the energy was so palpable and so strong. I didn't know at the time that this was part of my decision, part of all of our ability, or just part of our decision-making abilities. I didn't know that there was a word for it. I didn't know that it was energy in motion. I didn't understand that my emotions were anything but liabilities to me, because of course, in our left brain mind training, we're not taught that emotions can be helpers, can be guides for us. All I knew was that something in me decided in that moment that we were meant to be together. And 24 years, in fact, I wrote a book about our life together. Pearl brought me to animal communication. Pearl saved my life more than once on so many levels. So if you want to check that out, it's called Love and Feathers, What a Palm-Sized Parrot Has Taught Me About Life, Love, and Healthy Self-Esteem. And now Pearl has reincarnated to me in the form of my soul bird, my very first ever ladybird, cockatiel Miss Petal. And so that is just an example. That's the kind of big aha moment, energetic shifts I needed back then, because I wouldn't have noticed anything subtler. But why I'm sharing with you right now is because I want you to know that the more you practice, the less you're going to need to rely on these big booming voice from the sky moments that feel so random and so fleeting and so rare. You're going to start to flow with the energy within you, with the energy in motion each and every day. And you'll be able to flow through your life with so much more grace and ease, with so much more gratitude, with so much more self-trust. The next 5 that I want to talk about, Sonia calls the red light vibe. That's the energy of stop. It doesn't mean stop forever necessarily, but it means stop for right now. And you can even kind of see it sometimes in your body. Like, maybe, have you ever had the experience that you're talking with someone, even if it's like virtual, like on Zoom or over the phone, and something in you is like your body just keeps drawing back until you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to fall over backwards, but I'm just feeling like I want to move away. So a red light vibe is going to be a stop vibe. Like, now is not the right moment to make this decision. Or if you're faced with one choice, forward or back, the answer right now is no. And so just like joyful, and I want to just pause for a moment and talk about green light vibe emotions. We can look for emotions like feeling like, in spite of myself, I just move forward. That's one that I just talked about. We can also look at joy, excitement, a feeling of our body moving towards something, the heart area opening, a lightness, sometimes just a spontaneous smile or laughter. So these are the energetic frequencies, energy and motion, emotions with light, fast, high vibration energy. It just feels like somebody's giving you a big cosmic hug, if that doesn't sound too terribly woo. And of course, you'll get a lot of that here. Red light vibes, energy and motion that's saying, stop, wait. This, what we're looking for is heavier, denser, like somebody just dropped a rock on your heart, or feeling like, oh, I should do that. Yes, that is the sensible thing to do. There's really no joy. There's no lightness. There's often a sense of obligation. Like, that's a key that you're not moving in the right direction. The shoulds, there's a difference between a should because you're just like forcing yourself to do something based on some outdated version of what it means to be an adult, or what it means to be, in your supervisory role at work, or what it means to be a parent, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a choice to do something because there's benefit to you and someone else, and you enjoy serving, or you want to give a gift to someone, even if it's difficult for you to do so because that other being matters to you. For instance, taking on the challenge and the expense of caring for a pet. These can feel heavy sometimes, but there's also a lightness of being in them because they are so deeply meaningful. So the energy of the red light vibe is the energy of no, or not right now. Now there's a third, less well-discussed vibe. Sonia calls it the yellow light vibe. I call it it's a no until a yes vibe. And that's the energy of wait. That's where you're feeling the chaos. That's where you're feeling the conflict, the conflicted emotion, the conflicted thoughts, the conflicted energy, where you feel come closer, go away. You feel stop, start. You feel like 1 minute I'm absolutely certain that I should do this, and the next minute I'm absolutely certain that I should do that, and the next minute I don't know anything. That's the energy of chaos. Your emotions are up, they're down. Your decision-making ability, it's there and then it's not. You're possibly seeking input from lots of different people. You just feel like a slingshot is just ricocheting around the inside of your body. And so that's the yellow light vibe. And so really just start to pay attention to these things. Just set the intention to place your focus on what is the energy of the emotion in your body. What are you feeling? Am I feeling joyful? Am I feeling conflicted? Am I feeling heavy and obligated? And notice if you had to give that a direction, with true north being the highest and best good for you. We're not talking about true north is the direction you should go. We're talking about true north is the highest and best good for you, the lightest vibration feeling. That is where we aim. We're always aiming for it. So start feeling, if I had to give the emotion I'm feeling right now as I'm making this choice, as I'm making the decision, whether it's to wear these shoes or that shoes, or it's whether it is my pet's time to transition and they need my assistance, whether it's a tiny decision or a huge life-altering decision. Every decision alters our life when we learn to tune into, to trust, and to follow the vibration of the energy frequency that's inside of us as we're making these decisions, as we're moving through our life. Every moment of every day is, in essence, a decision. And so, what frequency are we following? And the frequency is welling up within us. And all we have to do is start tuning in and learning to follow it. I lead with this one for our kickoff podcast of 2024, because it has been the most transformational for me in my life. Just recognizing, oh my goodness, I have a GPS inside of me and it's trustworthy. And all I have to do is give myself a minute and tune in. So give that a try and let me know how it goes. My second tip for you for 2024 to start learning how to tune into, to trust, and to follow your intuition to your highest and best good is to begin to notice the signs. What do I mean by notice the signs? What I don't mean is understand and decode the signs, but what I do mean is trust the signs. Here, I will give you a simple example. Over the last few weeks, I have been battling an illness. It's kind of a chronic illness that crops up every winter. And every year I get a new chance to find a breakthrough. And I go through these periods of pretty profound fatigue and soul searching. And it's a frustrating time, to be quite honest, because every year I think this is the year I'm going to beat the sinus infection and all of the accompanying side effects that it brings into my life, and 3 months of chronic fatigue, et cetera, et cetera. And every year I discover it's come back again. And so this year I've been experimenting with some new things. And one of the things that I've noticed, even though I haven't had my breakthrough yet, I've noticed that there have been quite a number of signs. For instance, there's this little clock, if you're watching the video version, just a little clock that sits on a table behind me. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I've turned around to look at that clock and it says 11:11 or 1:11. I don't know what it means. I don't, but I know that that's a sign. And because I don't know what it means, doesn't make it any less valid. In fact, many times I feel like the meaning of the sign is simply kind of like an atta girl, like a chin up, like a we're here, we've got you. Keep working on this. That could be the most meaning you will ever have for a sign. So if you can just notice the signs, often signs will start to show up in little patterns. For years and years and years, I've seen ladybugs, and I've talked about this quite a bit on past podcast episodes, but it was even in a time in my life when I was like almost immune to signs, like I could not see them for the life of me. Ladybugs could always get through. And so the more I have leaned into that one experience, the more I've noticed there are other signs in my life. And to me now, I lean into the energy of like, oh, isn't that interesting? Kind of like a research scientist, like, 11:11 again, or 1:11 again, or another ladybug, whatever it is for you. And the other thing about signs is it's a sign if it's significant to you. If it catches your attention, it's a sign for you. Just assume that it is, because it is. You don't have to know what it means. You may never know what it means. And the meaning may be as simple as you are not alone. You're not alone. Okay, this is the 200th day in a row when you've tried to talk to your pet and nothing's come through. But then you see a ladybug, or the lights flicker in the bathroom yet again, or the TV comes on and you know nobody turned it on because you're the only one there and you certainly didn't do it. These are all signs. And often the message is simply like getting, if you can imagine, in the etheric GPS that somebody downloaded a little heart emoji to your phone from anonymous admirer, just saying, we love you. We're here with you. We can help. We are helping. You have all the help you need. Keep going. Be encouraged. Know you are loved. Sometimes these are the only reasons for these signs, is this to keep the connection alive and to feel it more tangibly, more consciously, to bring intuition. Intuition is a subconscious process. I talk about this a lot more in my animal communication classes, but intuition is hooked into an entire sensory and neural system that we use every single day, but we don't use it for intuition. It's hooked into the same pathways as imagination and the parasympathetic nervous system. If you want to know more about that, and you have even the vaguest interest in animal communication, I highly recommend you head over to animallovelanguages.com/enroll. You have 2 free mini courses that you can start with, and then pay attention for the next live course and go ahead and enroll. And we dive a lot deeper into that. But for now, just know that this entire system that is always attempting to work for your good will do a lot better job when you start to pay attention, to notice the signs all around you. The little signs that you're like, that's a sign. I don't know why. I don't know what it means, but I know this much. That is a sign and it's meant for me. And then just put your hand on your heart or just take a deep breath and just say, thank you. And just feel that for a moment. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for that little heart emoji. Thank you for letting me know that I have a mystery admirer. Thank you for letting me know that I'm not alone. And the more gratitude that you send in the direction of these lovely little signs and messengers, the more of them that you will get. And the better you get at recognizing them, the more you will decode the meaning in them. And they will serve as kind of like exterior, outside GPS that are lining up with your inside GPS and your emotion and the energy and motion and that sensory system that's guiding you from within. You're also going to start to see signs from without around you, reinforcing what you're feeling and creating a much more accurate and very trusted guidance system that you can lean on. Now, the third tip, if you will, or tool that I want to share with you in this podcast episode is to communicate with yourself. So much of our journey through life is a process of learning to communicate accurately, regularly, and intentionally with ourselves. Back in the day when I was a struggling 20-something and I was just a hot mess, and the only thing I wanted, literally the only thing I wanted in life other than to keep company with a parrot, was to be a musician. That is what I wanted. I wanted to be a songwriter. I wanted to be a musician. And I was really having some health struggles. And I talk about this more in earlier episodes where I was struggling with anorexia and bulimia. And I had a serious debilitating hand condition that made it impossible for me to practice my instruments. And so I was just a hot mess in every way. And I was pretty much willing to try everything from hand casts and posture realignment to astrological readings. And so one day I went and got myself one of those, and the astrologist said to me, your hands are never going to support you in the way that you want and need them to play music full time. Your job in this lifetime, your reason for being here is to learn to communicate with people. And I honestly, I was like, no, I don't want that. Like, I am not interested in learning to communicate with people unless it is through music. Like, that is the only thing that matters to me. Well, 30 years later, I'm discovering that she was right. For me, even at that time, I feel like my intense emotional response to that message was as intense as it was because it was true and I didn't want to believe it. But it has been the biggest blessing in my life because I have needed to first learn how to communicate with myself, to get in touch with myself. So many of us have been walking around in our lives, strangers to ourselves. That is one of the reasons why COVID and the 1.5 year long pandemic lockdown that we went through has been so challenging for so many of us, because we've realized that we don't really know ourselves very well, if at all. Many of us, and I am no exception to this, have surrounded ourselves with people and with things and with experiences and with hobbies, even, and workplace environments that don't fit with us, but anything to avoid having to keep company with ourselves, to spend more time with ourselves, to feel how uncomfortable we are in our own company. And how we have this brain that needs constant entertainment. You think it's hard keeping your active dog entertained? Try keeping your active brain entertained. And so the pandemic was this huge wake-up call for so many of us, saying, are you comfortable in your own skin? Are you living the life that your heart beats for, that really longs for? Are you truly a victim of your circumstances, your financial needs, your relationship commitments, or is there another way? When the pandemic really erupted, I had a tremendous number of losses. My best friend died suddenly, not from COVID, from something else. My relationship of 15 years exploded and imploded, and I left. And then my dad died, and my precious rescued box turtle, Bruce, escaped while I was helping my mother through a traumatic hip surgery. She had a fall, fractured her wrist, and broke her left femur. And then I ended up moving. I mean, my life was just, I was also learning animal communication at the time. Thank goodness. And I remember feeling like the pandemic was such a blessing in my life, even though, and I say that with full humility, understanding it was also extremely painful. And there were so many losses and there were so many deaths. But for me, someone who survived the pandemic, and I've had COVID, and it's not a nice thing, but it gave me the breathing room, non-optional breathing room, because there was not a darn thing I could do about it, to sit with myself, to ask myself, what do you really want? What do you really need? It's not like I had anything anywhere else to be or anyone else to hang out with. We weren't allowed to see each other even. I had time. And so I took it and I started learning animal communication, and I really doubled down on my intuitive studies, and my whole life transformed. So spending time with yourself, getting to know what makes you tick, what do you want, what do you love, what do you hate? What if you could really start to befriend yourself? Because that's the dialogue that leads to transformational intuitive awareness. To the degree we know ourselves, to the degree we know what pushes our buttons, what lights us up, what we still need to heal, what we crave, every detail. Nothing is too small to be important. The fact that my favorite color is blue, that's important to me. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone watching the video version, but in fact, it was funny when the movers were moving me in here. I was helping them figure out where to put everything, and one of the movers said, "Is your favorite color blue?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, does it show?" And so little things like how well do you know yourself? If you sat down and somebody just asked you 20 questions about you, would you struggle to answer? Or would you be able to answer because you just know yourself so well? And this just isn't about intellectual knowledge. This is about, who are you in your core? What are your values? What do you stand for? What legacy do you want to create now? Because this is your life. And so taking the time to get to know you is going to open the door to get to know how you want to be in this world, who you want to be in this world, who you want to be with in this world, what you want to do with your life. And the clearer you are about who you are, what you stand for, what matters to you, where you're headed, what you want, the more all of this other intuitive stuff that we're talking about will start to line up in the direction that you want to go, that will start to reaffirm and reinforce who you want to be and who you know yourself to be and who you are. And the signs that you get and the energy within you will start to vibrate at that frequency. And you're going to start to achieve congruency in your mind, in your heart, in your body, in your soul, in your relationships. So get to know yourself. Take time. If you're a fan of the artist's way method, take yourself on dates. I did that for a while, and that was really fun. Hang out with your pets and ask them to describe you to you. Just play this game of Your pet is asked to describe your person, describe your mom, describe your dad. What would they say? Get to know yourself. Really sit down and think about, what do I stand for? Who am I? What makes me tick? What's on my bucket list? I know bucket list has become this cliche, but I take it very, very seriously. I have checked several things off my bucket list in the 2.5 years since my father passed unexpectedly and my best friend passed unexpectedly. What I want to experience in life matters. I have thrown axes. I have ziplined. I have ridden in a hot air balloon. I am headed to the Galapagos to work with giant turtles and see sea turtles for the first time. Bucket list matters because that is the stuff that you are all about. Why you want to do what's on your bucket list is what you're all about. So spend time with you, and the degree to which you know yourself, even the stuff that you still need healing on, even the stuff where you're still wounded and you're still working on it, that's the degree to which you will be able to dialogue openly and honestly with any other being of any species. My students often ask me, why can't I get deeper conversations? Why can't I get deeper information? And it's because, in so many cases, it's because they still have emotional blocks in those areas. It triggers them. It pushes on a bruise that's not healed, that they didn't know about. And when we're blocked about feeling something, or moving through some trauma or some experience in our life, we're not going to be able to talk about it very easily. We're not going to be able to hold space for others. So, the degree to which you really get to know yourself is the degree to which you will be able to be with others as they get to know themselves and share their truth, no matter what species you want to talk with. So, the next tip I want to share with you is to ask for help. My intuitive teacher, Sonia Choquette, talks about how at any given moment, we can have up to 33 members of our light team just sitting around waiting for us to ask them for help. And she shares this really funny story about all these angels and spirit guides sitting around in like a call center together, and they are so bored. And one of them asked the other one, have you gotten any calls today? And the other one's like, nope, haven't gotten any calls today. And then another angel asked, well, did you get any calls today? And the other angel says, well, I got one call, but they hung up. I try to keep my light team really busy. And by light team, if you're not familiar, I'm talking about your companion, your guardian angels who are with you throughout your life. Before you're even born, they come into this world and they help you leave your body and return to this spirit space. I'm talking about light beings from other realms. I'm talking about loved ones of any species who've transitioned to the spirit side. I'm talking about animal totems. I'm talking about the green beings in your space. I have so many green beings who teach me about intuition every single day. And your own companion animals, your own sensory and intellectual and physical and relational organism. You have helpers everywhere. Keep them busy. Ask them for things. Here's a really fun one that I started doing right when I started studying intuition. I ask my runner guides to go help me find a really good parking spot. And they are really good. They're good. I have very, very good parking spot angels and spirit guides. And so you can start with small things. Just get me a really good parking spot, or help me find the perfect birthday gift for my best friend. Just send me the perfect gift. I don't have to understand how I find it. You know how you get on the internet and one minute you're here and the next minute you're some random website and you don't know how you got there? That's your spirit guides at work. So keep them busy. And if you need help developing your intuition, ask for the highest vibration intuitive spirit guide, intuitive mentor, and say, help me develop my intuition this year. I really, really, really want my intuition's help. And then trust that they will show up and start noticing, because it will happen. Now, the fifth and final tip for this edition, for this first in a 2-part series of how to tune in, trust, and follow your intuition in 2024 is, I want to circle back again to know what matters most to you? And I would say try to really even write it out. If you can, write it down and don't worry about getting it perfectly, but write it out and keep refining it until it really feels like you. Like for me, interspecies lives matter. They are everything to me. They've always been everything to me. I am so passionate about taking off our species goggles, trying to eradicate speciesism as much as we can. And this does not mean that I'm advocating to ignore species differences, differences in wiring, differences in our needs, in what makes sense for us and what works best for us based on our species. All of that is important. I'm talking about stop assigning value to a life based on what costume it's wearing. And stop putting limitations on the level of connection we can have simply based on what costume we are wearing. My relationships with my companion animals have been, without a doubt, bar none, the deepest relationships I have ever had with any being in my whole life. The costumes that they are wearing have never mattered to me. The value that I place on their lives is almost exceeds the value I place on my own. As my parrot tries to dip her beak into my coffee cup for the 50th time, right? You're a coffee bird. You're a coffee colored and coffee flavored and coffee scented bird, aren't you? So that's an example of what really matters to me. It informs the work that I do every day. It moves me through challenges, especially challenges like not feeling that I'm good enough at this work or good enough to do this work, or that I've got enough experience, or that I've had enough intellectual training, or that I've expressed it as clearly as I possibly can to my clients or my students. All of that stuff that we have to go through as humans to stand in our truth, to embody what matters most to us, well, we've got to know what matters most to us to give us the courage to go through it. Self-evolution is hard work. If we don't know why we're doing it, we're probably not going to do it. And if we do try, we won't do it very well. We won't have the courage that we need. We won't have the carrot that we need, the incentive that we need to stick with it, because we really don't know where we're going. So what is it? For some of us, it's to show our kids that limitation doesn't define us. For some of us, it's to save vanishing species. I have a special passion for exotic animals like turtles and tortoises because they're the oldest beings on our planet and they've survived everything but us. And they're also the quietest. They can't bark or screech or roar to get our attention. So I want to be their voice. So think about what matters most to you. And think it in terms of 3 to 5 core values or experiences or just ways of being that are not optional for you. And you wouldn't be you without them, and you wouldn't want to be. They matter that much. And write them down. And then this will help you start to identify what blocks you from fully living into who you know yourself to be, from doing all that you can do and how you show up in the world, how you talk about what matters, how you act on what matters, who you act on behalf of, and how bravely you do it. And your intuition needs a destination in order to work fully on your behalf. If you know you're at A, you're home on your GPS, but you have no idea really where you're going, or you just need coffee and any coffee shop will do, it's going to get you a very different result than knowing I only want to go to this particular place because it has the highest vibration, it has the best people, it has the most beautiful views, it has everything I need to do my best work in the world, and you plot that at precise address, that turns you into an intuitive rocket ship and gives you all of the brave, all of the courage you need to tackle the obstacles that can and will crop up along the way. Those recalculating moments that we go through, we're like, oh, I don't know, or, oh, this is so scary. I faced one last week. I signed up for a huge new experience in my business and entrepreneurship growth, and I just about vomited several times while I was doing it. And I survived it because I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing in this world. And I'm so passionate about why it matters to me and why it needs to be done, and why I feel like I am somebody that really can join in and make an impact in the areas that matter most to me. So those are my 5 tips for part 1. Give these a try. I'll be back in 2 weeks to check in with you to see how you're doing, how it's going, consider which tip you want to start with. You don't have to tackle them all at once, but which one really sings to your heart, which one you maybe are already working with and you just want to enhance that and take that a step further. And then I will be back in 2 weeks with 5 more tips for us to continue our journey together, our intuitive journey of self-discovery, of inner species connection, of de-wooing all of the other systems that we have access to and starting to use them in very tangible, practical, and really fun and amazing ways. So I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of 2024. If there are topics that you are keen to hear about, if you want an animal communicator's perspective on certain topics or subjects, just let me know. If you've really enjoyed an episode, please share it with a friend who loves animals and into all things intuitive. If you have a moment, please do leave this podcast a review wherever you happen to be watching or listening. It really, really helps the algorithm know, hey, this podcast matters. It deserves a little attention. Maybe a few new people will give it a listen, give it a chance. And if you need me, you know where to find me. I'm at animallovelanguages.com. I do pet sessions. I offer free and paid animal communication classes. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to get to know you. I would love for us to be friends. Okay? All my love. I'll be back in 2 weeks.